Good evening, everyone. I will start off where Kapil left, so that he has actually made a good platform for me to start off. So, as he said, we have a huge challenge of coal supplies, and the coal companies, particularly CIL and SCCL, have not been able to honor their FSAs, and that's why the linkage realizations have been going down. Logistics has also become a huge nightmare. Indian Railways, they don't commit, they don't sign any agreement, they don't even give you any documentary evidence of having agreed to anything in writing. So there is a huge risk of entering into a thermal coal-based power generation capacity when you have coal supplies uncertainty and logistics uncertainty. So coupled with this, obviously, if you want to plan something from international sources, you don't know how much to really depend on international coal markets too. Now, pricing in terms of domestic coal has had a dichotomy. When we look at only the domestic market in exclusion, you will see that allegation of monopolistic pricing is thrown at Coal India. So you would see that they have different grades of consumers. You have some grades of coal being sold at import parity prices, some grades of coal sold in e-auction, which fetches 25 to 40%, sometimes 70% premium. Some grades of coal sold to non-regulated sector at higher notified prices, and some sold to power sector and other strategic market consumers at notified prices. So this basically aligns quite well with the typical textbook definition of monopolistic market. But when you compare the same prices with international coal, you would see that there still is 25, sometimes now that the prices are lower, 15 to 20% discount over international prices. Now, in order to align it, the ministry has come up with a suggestion that at least to begin with, let's align it with the international market and start the auctioning of coal linkage. And taking a cue from what has happened in the coal block auction, it is expected that even linkages will go into high premium markets. And markets would obviously align the prices in auction process. But my suggestion is that even for power sector, maybe for short term it may increase the pains. Our coal prices might go eventually a little higher. But this is the best opportunity because our international prices are low at this point of time. So possibly if we are to rationalize and align our market price, coal prices with international prices, this is the best opportunity, and possibly the lower international prices provides us that window that we can take decision and do the same thing for power sector as well. And as has been talked about since yesterday evening as well, that we can provide the cash subsidy support at the consumer end, so that the entire supply chain, right from coal mining to the distribution of electricity, becomes economically viable, rather than keeping some subsidies in coal mining, some other in power generation, some other in coal electricity distribution, so that the entire value chain keeps accumulating these subsidy burdens at different levels and struggles in the process. Now, captive mining, Kapil did mention some of the issues. Just to give you a flavor, it was initially planned that it would be a reverse bidding, and the lower the cost of mining, the better it is for the government, because that cost of mining would be passed on as the energy tariff. But what essentially happened was, because of the scarcity mentality and the smaller number of coal blocks put on the auction initially, there was a huge premium that went in. And you would see that everyone decided to forego the cost of mining, and most of them agreed to pay higher premiums, and in some cases it went to 1100 rupees, as in case of Amelia North Coal Block. Now people are struggling to understand where will this money come from. So some of the recoveries could be camouflaging this energy charge into fixed charges. That again is difficult now, because you are competing with other power projects for case one bids. Now, unless the other power projects are inefficient or their technologies are inefficient, you would not be able to camouflage your energy into fixed charges and still be able to compete with them. The document provides that only 85% needs to be committed. So you could keep your PLF high, maybe 15% you can sell in the merchant market. But then merchant market tariff rates are also coming down, and sometimes they are lower than the contracted prices. So that market also is not that viable and lucrative nowadays. Use additional reserves in another project. Now, that comes up with a lot of risk in that, because as of now we don't have any regulation in place, no guideline yet in terms of usage of additional reserves. But what has happened in case of Sasan ultra mega power project, that can happen to you as well. So that you cannot take that as a positive and mindlessly bid for ultra high premium. Use of middlings and washery rejects. Here again, there is a scope. You can set up a washery. Washery yields would be in the range of 60 to 70%. So 30% middlings and washery reject that you generate, you can sell in the market because the tender document and the guidelines are silent about it. But how much money will you fetch? That is uncertain. Given that Coal India is now planning to increase the production to 1 billion. So if coal is available from Coal India at a notified price, which is lower than the market prices, how much would your middlings and rejects fetch in the market? That's something, something that's a big call. So basically what we are given to understand is that those who have put in their foot into the high premium bids, possibly they would have to come back to the government seeking for bailout sometime or the other. There is no money on the table. Possibly even IPPI membership would be at stake. So I think it's a huge risk, and auctions have possibly led to that. Now in commercial mining, there's another, somebody said that there needs to be more supplies and government needs to liberate. So the laws provide for it. But then the mentality is the same. We have been talking about it. The government says that we'll have to do it through state entities. Now, the problem with state entities is that most state entities don't have money to even put in 5 lakhs of equity. So they typically go through MDO route. And if you look at the slide, the MDO route will have the built-up of costs, the cost of mining, which is independent of who runs the mine. Then you have MDO's return, then you have the SMC, the state mining company who gets the mining lease. They would also want their commission. And on top of that, there would be some margins as well. So basically, if you look at all this and then compare that with the notified price of Coal India, and for that matter, even the international coal price, which is substantially lower from what it used to be a couple of years ago, you would see that basically commercial mining is a non-viable proposition today. And I think by taking this route of state mining corporation, we are going to kill that proposition of commercial mining. Now, $1 billion plan, just a few thoughts on this. When international coal prices are low, possibly it doesn't make sense for most of the coastal India, typically Andhra Pradesh, coastal Karnataka, Kerala, even Gujarat and Maharashtra, to depend on Coal India for their supplies. They would better off take Indonesian or South African coal because of the uncertainty and the quality, even the pricing concerns. So does it make sense for Coal India to expand capacity now? 5 years ago, we had a situation where demand and supply were nearly matched. 2010 to 2013, we had huge amount of capacity addition in power generation. Coal mining was not able to match it. Now in the next 3-4 years, what we are going to see is the reverse of that. We'll have large amount of coal capacity addition, power generation capacities are drying up. So we'll have the same situation which Coal India was almost a decade and a half ago, where many of its subsidiaries would go sick because of having picked up wrong projects to invest.
Dipu.
Yes, just one more minute. Of course, this comes with a considerable cost because all these new projects, mega projects that are being planned are deeper deposits. They are expensive. Large amount of money would have to be invested, and these are all taxpayers' money. These also come along with environmental and social cost, land acquisition challenges, and something to do with inviolate forest also, which possibly is going to have a huge cost. So in conclusion, all I would want to do is I would like to say and conclude is by saying that there is a lot of policy decisions being taken, but all of that is not in the right direction. So we should not take lot of action being done as a in the right direction. What is essentially important for us to understand is that how we start a race is not all that important, but it is important how we finish the race. Thank you.
Thank you so much.